As we continue revisiting the world of Avatar, today we turn to the House of the Flying Boar. I'll be taking you through the family tree, talking about each individual family member, and examining the family's dynamic. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and bell and pay your respects to the mighty badger mole. What's up, guys? I'm Chris Carr. Today I'm talking to you about the Beifong family from Avatar. Before we dive in, I want to give a big ol' shout out to our super nerd sponsor of the day, Kevin Brown. Thanks to heroes like Kevin, we get to keep studying these characters together. So thank you so much. We really appreciate you. We're excited to announce that Nerdwire is partnering with our sister brands, The Fumble and Holly Scoop, in a fundraising campaign for the Equal Justice Initiative. The EJI is an incredible nonprofit organization that provides legal aid and assistance to those who need it most. There's a link below where you can donate directly to them. I'll fill you in with more details at the end of this video. The name Beifong means North Region, a sly nod to this family being of a higher tier, the upper crust, if you will. This noble family was based in the town of Gaoling and were known for their wealth. Their sigil, the flying boar, is known throughout the Earth Kingdom. Let's first examine the family symbol. We've all heard the saying, "when pigs fly," and the Beifongs boldly splash this idiom across their flag. This saying is meant to note how ridiculous, how impossible something is, and how incredibly unlikely something is to happen. Now, while a flying boar is a very real, airborne animal within the world of Avatar, I feel like this is sort of a poke at how people were treating Toph's ability to bend. She'll be a master when pigs fly. We, of course, know that she goes on to arguably be the GOAT. She invents metal bending. She starts a metal bending school. She's the bender. It makes me think of John Steinbeck. Okay, follow me on this weird connection, you guys. Steinbeck was told by a professor of his that he would be an author when pigs flew. Obviously, Steinbeck did become a published author, arguably one of the best, most influential American novelists ever. And so he printed his books with the note, Ad Astra per Alice Porci, to the stars on the wings of a pig. Steinbeck embraced this flying pig, much like how Toph is proudly of the House of the Flying Boar. Also, let's not forget that one Beifong is eventually gifted with flight. Opal is the flying Beifong. She's the flying boar. We should also know that the Beifongs are the only folks given a last name in the original series, and only the Santo family joins them in having a surname in Korra. I mean, aside from when Aang gives himself an alias, Bonsu Pippin Patalopocopolis III, and Sokka decides that Wang Fire is a clutch identity. Having a last name simply just seems to be a rich people thing, another indicator of status. Furthering this placement of high standing, the Beifong home we encounter in Avatar: The Last Airbender seems to be modeled on a Sheheyuan. A single family occupying this type of residence in ancient times signified wealth and prosperity. We begin our family tree with a character you may not be familiar with, but proves that aiding the Avatar is in Beifong blood. In the novel, Rise of Kyoshi, we're introduced to Liu Beifong. Liu was a politician and earthbending master married to Lady Wume. Following the death of Avatar Kuruk, Liu took point on searching for the Avatar's successor. Ultimately, he failed to find Kyoshi, and his relationship with his prize student, Jiansu, who had trained Kuruk in earthbending, became frayed. Liu was the grandfather of Lao Beifong, who married Poppy, a fellow Earth Kingdom noble. Lao would go on to co-found the world's first joint venture between the Fire Nation and Earth Kingdom, the Earth and Fire Refinery. Such ventures would usher in the industrial boom we see in Legend of Korra. Poppy gave birth to one daughter, Toph Beifong. It's been suggested that the name Toph is simply a play on the word tough. It also could link to the British slang word toff, which means upper class, really hammering in the whole nobility factor. Toph is the only blind character we ever see in either Avatar series, and the first character born with a disability, the second being Minghua in Korra. Toph's blindness is so intrinsically tied to her character that it's wild to think she wasn't originally written that way. Originally, she was nothing like the Toph we know. Initially, the Earthbender on Team Avatar was going to be a buff 16-year-old whose jock build and mentality was intended to be a foil for Sokka. As it came closer to having the Earthbender debut, the creators joked about a little girl character who would be able to take on the macho, muscly Earthbenders. This was originally rejected, but eventually, the joke became a fully fleshed character. The actor playing Toph in the Fire Nation's Avatar play, The Boy in the Iceberg, is a nod to that initial design. And the original concept greatly influenced the creation of Bolin for Legend of Korra. Now, both of Toph's parents were extremely protective of her, and ultimately, they decided to hide her away from the rest of the world. Unsurprisingly, Toph was unhappy. Not existing will do that to ya. She would sneak out in the night for bending matches, unbeknownst to her family. She ultimately chooses to run away with Team Avatar, and consequently has a strained relationship with her family. They initially believe that the Avatar kidnapped her, and find out that she left on her own accord. Toph chose to stay away from her family even after the war's end. In the Avatar comics, the Rift Trilogy, Toph is able to reconcile with her father, who is upset that the docile, obedient daughter he thought he had was just Toph putting on an act. Lau finally acknowledges Toph for who she is, and accepts her. According to the Family and Youth Institute, research shows that strict parenting doesn't produce better behaved kids. In fact, these children usually have lower self-esteem. Toph luckily knows how awesome she is, but I can't help but think of how hurt she was in Tales of Ba Sing Se when those Earth Kingdom girls are making fun of her. Toph is never really socialized. She's never had friends before. It's a wonder that she grasps social cues. Studies have shown that an authoritative parenting style often encourages a child to bully their peers and encourages the child to rebel. And we see Toph do some textbook rebelling. And while I wouldn't call Toph a bully, she doesn't exactly have the softest touch. Toph's rigid upbringing is why she gave her daughters complete freedom. But much like Toph resented how she was raised, Lin and Su-yin resent her. Lin bears a striking resemblance to her grandmother Poppy, and has that classic tough Beifong exterior. According to the creator's Tumblr, Lin Beifong's physical design was inspired by the general manager of Studio Mir. The likeness is uncanny. And her tough and natural beauty was inspired by German actress Marlene Dietrich. As I said, Toph gave her daughters free range to do whatever. And I assume this lack of structure led to Lin seeking ways to win her mother's approval, typically through emulating her, like becoming a cop. This also led to Lin and Su-yin competing for their mother's affection and attention. After joining the Republic City Police Force, Lin came home to find her sister had skipped school and was hanging out with some pretty shady friends. These friends turned out to be members of the Terra Triad, a local gang that had enlisted Su-yin to be their getaway driver. Lin apprehended her sister, but Su-yin cut Lin's metal cable, snapping it in her sister's face, permanently scarring Lin. Now, Lin wrote up a full police report about what happened, but Toph tore it up, destroying Su-yin's record. After all, the police chief couldn't have a criminal for a daughter. Toph retired a year later, and Lin always blamed her sister for this, assuming her mother was so guilt-ridden by her actions. This caused a huge rift between the sisters, even after Toph and Su-yin buried the hatchet about her brief criminal stint. This incident, and the fact that Toph refused to tell Lin who her father was, strained their relationship. Apparently, Toph kicked it with a guy named Kanto who was, quote, a nice man, but things didn't work out. The two eventually completely stopped speaking to one another. It would take 20 years for Lin and Toph to finally speak again. As Lin rose through the ranks and became police chief, Su-yin led a much more unorthodox life. Su was sent to live with her grandparents after her gang activities, but shortly after set out to travel the world. She sailed across the ocean, she joined the circus, she shacked up with some sandbenders for a stint, until she eventually decided that she wanted to put down roots. According to her, all that traveling was her just searching for a family. Like Lin, Su-yin was never told who her father was, just that she had a different dad than her half-sister. Many fans have speculated that Sokka is Su's dad, supported by Toph's crush on him in the series as a kid, and Su having a more olive complexion than her mother or sister. While I completely get this theory and found Toph's childhood crush and sandbox flirting to be adorable, Sokka's true love is Suki, so keep your mitts to yourself, Toph. Anyway, Su set out to make her own family. She bought some land and hired an architect to build what would now become the metal-bending community, Zaofu. She'd also go on to marry that architect, Batar, and have 5 children with him. As I spoke in my analysis of Tenzin, birth order often affects a child's personality. Typically, the firstborn child is the more disciplined, structured, less rebellious child, whereas the youngest is a wild card, who mom treats way more hands-off. While both children definitely grew up in a structured environment, it would appear that Lin and Su-yin's personalities line up with the assigned traits of their birth order. Having a sibling can teach a child valuable social skills and help them learn to resolve conflicts, or it can cause a lifetime of social dysfunctions. While studies have shown mixed effects on having a brother or sister, the constant is that childhood dynamics echo throughout the rest of a person's life. We see this with Lin, as she had to work through her feelings of resentment towards her mother and sister in an acupuncture session. Thankfully, the Beifong women came to a place of understanding and a willingness to communicate. One of the most beautiful things about Korra is the subplot of Lin and Su-yin's reconciliation. Once again, here I am wanting more from the adults. Can I get some pre-Korra comics, y'all? Please? Let's move on to Suyin and Batar's brood of bending babies. First up, we have a non-bender, Batar Jr. Ugh, what a warm fart in a cold toilet seat. I do not like this guy. The eldest child, Junior worked as an engineer on Zaofu prior to turning on his family to help the military efforts of his fiancée, Kuvira. As Kuvira's influence on him increased, Junior made more and more morally questionable choices. He surrendered to Team Avatar in an attempt to help his fiancée, but his faith in her is forever lost when she knowingly fires the energy spirit cannon at him and his family in an attempt to eliminate the Avatar. This prompts Junior to help his family instead. Yeah dude. Your almost wife was willing to laser blast you, and your mom welcomed you back with open arms. You made some bad calls, bud, and your lucky Suyin is not about cancel culture. The couple's second oldest, Huan, used his metal bending abilities to work as a sculptor. Though we see him use his bending to make art, and he's involved in several moments of conflict, I don't believe we ever see him use his bending in a combat capacity. Make art, not war, I guess. The middle child, Opal, initially was a non-bender like her brother Batar, but thanks to harmonic convergence, became an airbender. Like her aunt, Opal is modeled after a German actress, specifically 1940s Broadway starlet Dolly Haas. Opal is friendly and laid back, but also has hard opinions on transparency and honesty, which I think is a great trait. People should just be honest. She also often played the role of mediator, stepping in when her mother and aunt would fight. We also see a jealous side of Opal when it comes to Kuvira. Kuvira was often referred to as Opal's sister growing up. Opal would vehemently object to this, calling Kuvira a stray dog that no one wanted. Pretty cold, but to be fair, Kuvira would destroy Opal's toys, so she's got some wiggle room to be mad. Finally, we have the youngest of the bunch, the twins who invented the metal bending game Power Disc, Wei and Wing. Unlike Huan, we see these two regularly showcase their bending prowess in combat. They work in unison to launch large boulders, build towering walls, and more. Like most token twins in media, we don't really see much of a distinction in their personalities, and they're only distinguished physically through their accessories and hair parting. Ironically, this sort of sameness, treating twins as a unit rather than individuals like we see so often in media, is pretty damaging in real life. It really makes me wonder, why do we always portray twins this way? Just completing each other's sentences, talking at the same time, just being completely interchangeable. Let me know what you guys think about that. I think we do sort of see birth order traits play out with this set of kids. Our eldest did start out emulating his parents. Our second eldest felt the need to be seen, understood, and have his individually celebrated. And the babies at the bunch, the twins, just do their own thing and literally make their own rules. Opal and Kuvira's relationship almost mirrors Suyin and Lin in that there's a lot of resentment, and the two have opposing worldviews. It also makes sense for Opal, as a middle child, to feel like she's fighting someone for her mother's attention and approval. Opal also had never left home before, which feels very reminiscent of how Toph was raised, hidden behind the walls of the Beifong home, no contact with the outside world. It is fascinating to me to see how the strict versus hands-off parenting styles cycle through this family. The Beifongs had their share of ups and downs, soap opera-like twists, and drama with a capital D, all while making an impact on the world of Avatar, particularly the Beifong women. And while these family members didn't always see eye to eye, rarely did they see eye to eye, they teach us some very important lessons about family. That you should be true to yourself, and hope that your family can accept you as you are, and that it's never too late to get closure and heal old wounds. And I suppose it doesn't hurt that they show us constantly just how freaking cool earth and metal bending can be. Once again, I'd like to ask you to join NerdWire in our fundraiser for the Equal Justice Initiative. The Equal Justice Initiative is a nonprofit organization that provides legal representation for prisoners who may have been wrongfully convicted of crimes, for prisoners without effective representation, and others who may have been denied a fair trial. If you want to be part of the movement, there's a donation link below where you can send donations directly to the fund. Anything helps, and we're so glad that we can share this awesome opportunity to donate with you guys. Of course, these are just the things I think about when looking at the Beifong family. Question is, how do you feel about this family tree? Did I leave anything out? Where do you weigh in on some of the Beifong drama? Hit me up with your hot takes in the comments below.